illegal trade of rhino horn. After a court appearance, only one member, Thai national Chamlong Lemtong Thai, was found guilty of illegally obtaining hunting permits that led to rhino horn being fraudulently exported. Astonishingly, charges were dropped against 5 co-accused and, crucially, against Marnus Steyl, on whose farm the hunting took place. However, the pseudo-hunt was captured on camera and drew outrage and anger from South Africans after it was broadcast, leading to demands for more arrests. So what has happened since? We start with the video of that hunt, and please be warned once again that some of these visuals are extremely disturbing. Here you see Chamlong Lemtong Thai adjusting a small sports camera known as a GoPro on one of the hunters. They are about to film themselves on their expedition. On the right is professional hunter Harry Claessens. In front is the tracker, and to his left and slightly behind, Nimit Wongprajang, the man in whose name the hunting permit was issued, but who is not even carrying a gun. South African law allows hunters to kill one white rhino a year on issue of a permit. But the person who the permit is issued to must do the shooting. A professional hunter is allowed to shoot only if the rhino is wounded or if the hunting party is in danger. Now, if you look into the distance, you will see a rhino lying in the shade of a tree. The hunters have a clear line of sight. The person wearing the GoPro takes aim. A sharp crack. The first bullet rips into the rhino. In the background, the unbearable sound of the wounded rhino. It's hard to listen to, harder still to forget. Importantly, you can see that the permit holder, Nimit Wongprajang, is not the one firing. The GoPro hunter reloads. The rhino is confused, unable to see its killers. It just wants to get away from the source of the pain. But it's pointless. The rhino cannot withstand the onslaught.
You do it, huh?
Watch carefully now. The hunter clumsily removes his GoPro. Behind him, you can see Nimit Wongprajang, the man in whose name the license was taken out. He is clearly just a bystander. Finally, the identity of the real shooter is revealed, one Marnus Steyl. There is no hunting permit issued in his name for this particular hunt on the 16th of January 2011. And yet, Chamlong Lemtong Thai claims Steyl was unaware of any illegal activity on his farm. Since our broadcast and following a public outcry, charges were reinstated against Marnus Steyl. He appeared in court in November 2012. He was given 100,000 rand bail and will appear in court again on the 25th of March. We spoke again to investigative journalist Julian Rademeyer, author of Killing for Profit. He says poachers may have been arrested, but tackling the syndicates remains a challenge.
Well, there were 168 arrests last year, 668 rhinos poached. But kingpins, no. The kingpins remain untouchable. They remain in places like Laos and Vietnam. And there seems to be very little, if any, progress on an international law enforcement level to crack down on them.
Doing enough to save the rhino.
I think government's trying what it can. The resources are fairly limited, but you do have very dedicated people within the Hawks, within the National Prosecuting Authority, the South African Revenue Service and Sandparks, who have been trying to tackle the problem. But they don't necessarily have the resources that they need, and I'm not entirely sure they have the political support that they need. This is a massive international crime issue. It's not only a South African problem.
And the problem will be examined at this week's Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, known as CITES, in Bangkok.
The CITES Convention is essentially a trade agreement between countries. South Africa is a signatory to it, as are most countries around the world. And it governs the trade in wildlife. And that ranges from plants to insects to animals. It was set up to essentially provide a legal mechanism to govern and control legal trade in animals. But it also looks at the illegal trade. So it would look at things like rhino poaching and the poaching of elephants for ivory. And those are two of the hot topics that will be coming up this year.
And if solutions cannot be found, will we still have rhinos by the year 2020?
That's a very good question. I mean, if things continue to get worse, we haven't hit the tipping point yet where poaching is outstripping breeding rates. But that's getting very, very close. Some estimates suggest by 2015 we could have the beginning of a downward slide. And as we've seen before in the 1960s and 70s with the black rhino population, once the tipping point is reached and once poaching reaches levels that cannot be controlled, it's a very, very fast progression downwards.
Well, that is it for this week. Now, we're really keen to hear your stories, ones you think we should investigate. So you can fax us on 011-880-8883 or email us on thirddegree@etv.co.za. We're also on social media. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter. Until next week then, goodbye from the Third Degree team.